Hi guys, this is James back again with another video, and today we're going to be looking at the cool, awesome Osmo Action. So guys, this is a initial review of the Osmo Action. I've only had it for about a month, so not really a long-term review, but I've got to play with it quite a bit, so I feel like, yeah, I can talk about this to a certain extent. So I'm just going to break it down, what it can do, what it can't do, and my overall kind of thoughts about the camera. So first to note, this is the DJI Osmo Action. This is the first. There's a second one out right now, which is a bit more expensive and has a very distinct, different design. It's pretty much a cube, and you kind of have a block on a block. So you have the main camera as one cube block, and then you can either have a second screen, like another block, so a second screen, or you can buy a additional block, which is mainly just a battery. Now I didn't want to go for that option. One, because it just looked too flimsy. It didn't look like an action camera. It looked very delicate. Two, the blocks which you can buy are very expensive. So if I want to expand my battery power, I think it's like £100 for one of those battery blocks, so if you want two of those bad boys, although they do run a bit longer than the normal batteries for the Osmo Action 1, you're talking quite a bit of money. So those two things alone just put me off. So I decided to go for the first one. Now the first one is a more traditional looking action camera, something similar to the GoPros. This is a few years old now. I think this came out in 2007. 18. I'll put the year here somewhere. But yeah, it's a few years old now, so it's not brand new. And when it first came out, it was quite well thought after. It's particularly with the front-facing screen there, which is quite cool. I think GoPro went on to make the GoPro 8, I think, with the front-facing screen, so they kind of pinched that idea from DJI. Now DJI are mainly pocket gimbals or drones, so this is their first venture into action cameras, and I think they've done a really good job. The DJI Osmo Action can shoot 4K up to 60 frames per second. The highest frame rates that it does is 240 frames per second at 1080p HD, which is pretty good in all fairness. Now, as you get in those higher frame rates per second, the video quality does kind of get a bit muddy, so you may want to explore with that and see which frame rates you prefer for certain kind of activities, I'm guessing. So but it can shoot up to 240 frames per second, which is really, really slow. It does have rock steady, which is their version of GoPro's stabilization. I find it really, really good. I think it's very effective. I've taken this out on POV photo walks and strapped it to my chest with the chest mount, and the image is really good. You can see obviously your steps, but it's a nice motion. It's a natural motion almost. It's not very kind of shaky and jarring. So really good stabilization. This is their first version of Rocksteady, and GoPro have been doing, I think, what's they called? I can't remember what this is called now, but I haven't got a GoPro, so I'm not sure what this is called, but I'll put it up here somewhere. But their version of stabilization, they're on their third version of it, so they've really developed it. They've had a bit more time to kind of develop that stabilization technology, whereas DJI have just getting into it with the action cameras. So as a first go at it, Rocksteady is quite cool. So very happy with their stabilization. Custom profiles. What I like about this, from a filmmaker point of view, is it's always nice to have control over your image. So with this, you can control your shutter speed, your ISO, and your white balance. You can customize your white balance, but not in the same way you would with a camera where you hold up a white card. But you can put in the values for the white balance, which is pretty cool. It also does auto exposure as well, which does help. Also, so once you've set up a profile, so if you wanted a profile for 4K 25 frames per second with manual exposure settings put in, then you can save that as a custom file. So it just makes it easy. And so when you start up the GoPro, if you wanted to go straight into 1080 at 240 frames per second, you could just select that. If you wanted to switch then to 4K at 60, you got a profile set up for that, then you can switch to that as well. So it's very cool, very easy to use, very versatile in that way, and just makes it a real joy to work with. The profiles within this camera, quite basic, usual, but it does have a Leica Cine D profile, which is a flatter profile for some more, not advanced because it's not quite log, but just a more in-depth grading when it comes to your footage. So if you like to kind of grade your footage, or you want to try and match this footage to some drone footage you shot, then there's a bit of flexibility there. The video also is a decent bit rate at 100 megabits per second, so there is a bit of latitude there to kind of push things around a little bit if you want to. So you get some good quality video from this, and there are some really cool LUTs available for that, like Cine D profile too. And I've been enjoying playing with those, and it really does add a lot to the image which you're getting out of this little GoPro. Sacrilege. This little Osmo Action. Field of view is, you get about 145 degrees field of view, which is not as wide as the GoPros. I did a POV walk, and a lot of the times you couldn't really see the camera in frame. So what I decided to do is, the Osmo Action also has a de-warp function, so it'll get rid of that fisheye distortion. But in order to do that, it will punch in. So I've taken that off. I've got a bit of a fisheye warp on it just to get a wider image. But the option is there to remove that. So with that de-warp off, de-warp on, you're not getting a very wide field of view. But it may be enough for you. You know, it's something which you need to look at. But for me, I found I had to take that de-warp off just to get a bit wider. This has some amazing features such as time lapse as well. I did a little time lapse out my son's window, and I rigged this up because this has a USB-C port, which is really handy, fast charging, and you're able to link up a external battery to this, which is really cool. So I left this facing outside my son's window as the sun was coming up and then down for sunset, and it looked really cool. Again, you can change the resolutions on that. You go up to 4K, 2.7K, 1080, what have you. I just done a 1080 just so I kind of, I didn't fill up the SD card as quick. So that was a really cool feature. You've got a little button on the side, oh sorry, you got a little button on the top. So button on the top here will turn it on. And then the button on the side, so to my left, then you can kind of scrub through your custom profiles. And there you can see you got video, slow motion, time lapse, loop recording, and you've also got burst. This does take stills too. This can shoot RAW and JPEG. I've seen a lot of people on YouTube and on just looking around the place, they've shot some cool kind of slow shutter motion pictures using ND filters, but then really slowing down that shutter speed. It's really cool. That's just switched over by itself. Another cool feature is this is voice command, so I could do screen switch, and the screen switches, and the screen switches. So screen switch is what you say to switch the screens, just like that. You can also tell it to start recording, and then stop recording. Stop recording. There you go. Really helpful if your hands are not free. yeah, really cool. Another good thing is the app itself. The app is really cool. So the app you can get for your phone is the DJI Mimo app. Yeah, so the DJI Mimo app is really cool. Now, I've dealt with a lot of apps for cameras, particularly the Panasonic apps, the Sony's apps in the past as well. The thing I like about the DJI app is the fact that you can actually, as you're mid-recording, so I've been out with the Osmo Action on my chest doing a photo walk, and I could just, at any one minute, at any one moment, look at the app so I could see what I'm filming. I didn't have to stop the camera, I didn't have to restart the Bluetooth or re-input the Wi-Fi or anything fussy like that. The app takes a couple of seconds, but the app detects the camera and then connects to it as I'm mid-recording, and then from that app then I can control the recording, stop, start. I could control my settings. You know, I could do everything through the app that I could do with just the Osmo Action. Perfect little app. So this is a waterproof action camera. You can go up to 11 meters without a case. It's waterproof without any kind of housing at all. Just literally outside out the box. You can plonk this in some water and it'll stay pretty watertight, which is a cool little feature. Now, the only thing I would suggest is when you're about to submerge this in water, you really need to double check two things. One, where the SD card goes and the USB-C port is. Just double check that is firmly down and in place. But the other one, which I've recently discovered, it's not the best compartment. So the battery compartment here, when you put this battery in, you push it down and it clicks. But sometimes you'll notice that the little catch on the side there, it's orange, which means it's not fully closed. So you really need to double check that that is fully closed. Otherwise, it's not going to be water sealed. So double check that before you put this in any water, that the two doors there are just really shut tight. The only other thing you could do is possibly just keep it in housing. If you're going away on holiday, traveling, whatever, just keep it in housing and you can go in the water and blah 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 blah. Yeah, but just double check those two things. Another cool thing is the front of the lens is a little kind of cover, and this comes off and it does help protect the lens. So if you knock or scratch this, then it's just a matter of getting a new one of these, and then you're good to go. This also means that you can buy and add filters. There's some really good filters out there. I'm going to get a pack for the DJI Osmo of ND filters and circular polarizer filters, so you've got the ability to kind of control what you're filming even more so with those filters. The performance of the camera in low light isn't the best. So if you're in a situation where there's very low light and there's lack of light, the image is really going to distort quite badly. But then that's, you know, that's a given with these kind of cameras. They're very small sensors, so I mean you can't ask too much of them. So yeah, that's not anything new. GoPro are the best in low light. I don't think there's any action camera really up there that's any good at, say, 3200 to 4000 and plus ISO. So just be wary of that. I can't imagine anybody wanting to just use this solely for nighttime, but there may be some people out there who want to. But just yet, it's not going to be the best performer. Sound quality on this thing is really good. It's really good. It's a very ambient kind of sound, so it picks up everything, but it's very nice. I mean, there's microphones at the top and to the side. Glad I got you those boots, Caden. Glad I got you those boots.
Yeah.
Oh, let's actually go over. Don't run. So when it's on my chest and I'm talking, it can really pick up my voice quite well. Very clear, in fact. You can buy a Sonova USB-C audio adapter for this, which I have bought, and in a later video I'll show you like a little vlogging setup I've done for this, because you can use this as a really cool little vlogging camera. And because of the audio adapter, you can add better mics to this. So yeah, you can buy the Sonova audio adapter, plug it into the side there, and then you've got a 3.5 jack for most microphones, or any microphone in fact. So, but without the microphone, the sound on this is really, really good. Go back to profiles a little bit. I forgot to mention the HDR profiles. I've not messed around with that really, but HDR, high dynamic range, says it, you know, does what it says on the tin. You can get more dynamic range with images which you're shooting. So if you need more dynamic range, that is there with this camera to do so. The only drawback with that is I don't think Rocksteady works with the HDR profiles. So if you're locking this off and want some nice images, scenery, then it could work for you. But as an action camera, bob up and down, you're not going to be able to have the Rocksteady stabilization on at the same time. Alright guys, that's my brief initial review of the Osmo Action. I think it's a really good little camera. It's very affordable. I got mine for $250 on eBay, so it's definitely an option rather than going for the GoPros, which are more expensive. Definitely a lot better than those cheap shit ones you get off Amazon. Don't buy those. They're really not worth it. If you're going to get an action camera, I really do recommend getting a good action camera. The cheaper ones, sub £100, they're all the same. They promise 4K. It's absolute trash. If you really want an action camera with good quality, then for a couple of £100, get yourself an Osmo Action or an even older GoPro for 150 quid. Don't waste your money on cheap shit. That's my advice. All right. So yeah, that's it from me. If you enjoyed this video, then give us a like. And if you want to stay tuned for more, then hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.